Hi, this is Professor Nugent, and we are moving into Chapter 7. And Chapter 7 and 8 both deal with teamwork. And in Chapter 7, we're going to look at the basics of teamwork and as it deals with organizations and companies. And when we move into Chapter 8, we'll talk more about teamwork as it relates to performance. But right now, let's talk about Chapter 7. Okay, so we have a couple different things that we're going to look at in Chapter 7. Uh, the basics of what teams are, how they're utilized in organizations, and the different ways they can utilize them. Um, how we understand or know can tell when a team is effective, stages of team development, and just overall looking at how teams can be useful and effective in the workplace in general, and how different organizations may use different teams. So we all know what a team is: a group of people in an organizational context, a group of people who are brought in together, who hopefully their complementary knowledge and skills will um, be used for a greater purpose. And so it's a job almost too big for one person, where a team will be brought in to do it. Okay. Now, so what does a team do? Basically, teamwork. So it's just groups of people working together, and they act as almost similar to an assignment for one person. They're all accountable and responsible, um, and they need to work together to solve the problem. It's not something an individual can do easily. All right. So now, being an MBA student or taking MBA courses, you know that you are going to be asked to work in teams in certain classes. And ideally, in this class, I would have had you work in teams, uh, but given the short duration of the class and the complexities of working in a team on the online atmosphere, where some students are in different countries or traveling, makes it exceedingly difficult to put you guys in groups of 3 or 4 students and ask you to do lengthy projects together. So I realized that without having that face-to-face element, teamwork can be very difficult. Although companies are moving into more and more online environments where people are, like we discussed in the last chapter, people are working from home remotely, or company may have different sites around the world, and they may put a team together that could be in different areas around the country. I've found in the past that this is very difficult to work this way, and you lose a lot in communication and the effectiveness of the communication. So I don't. I realize the difficulties. It can be done and it can be effective, and they're good skills to have. In this class, I thought it might have been just too much to have you work in a big team orientation. And I also know from other courses that you do get a lot of teamwork in the MBA program. Uh, so if this class was a 15-week course on campus, then definitely teamwork would be a major element of the course. But we still are going to talk about teams and teamwork. Um, okay, so there are different types of teams. You can have a team that basically their basic job is to recommend. So maybe, for example, you want to go see one of the summer movies, but you don't know which one. So you put a team together of your friends. Now, each of your friends, all say there's 6 movies you're thinking of seeing. This group of friends, someone in the group, 1 or 2 or more, have seen one or all of these movies. So you assemble a team of your friends together and say, okay, I want you to discuss and organize it as a team, and then rank these movies and recommend what I need to see from the very first to the last. So if I can only see 3 movies, I'll see the top 3. If I can only see one, I'll see the number 1. So I need you to rank the movies for me. It is a weak example, but an example of a team that would recommend things. Okay, teams that run things. So obviously, you may put together a team to run a restaurant, a team to run a project. Um, so it's a team that's actually doing something. So you know, um, a process that one person can't do. So teams, and this type of team will be used continuously, and actually the members may change, but you need a team of people to accomplish said task. And then teams that make or do things. Now, how is this different? Let me redefine teams that run things. Um, I guess when you think about a team that runs things, I think I might have mixed these two up a little bit. So let me clarify. So I guess running things is more like a management level. Think of that way, where a team of managers are going to run the engineering division or the sales division, and then teams that make or do things, that's more of a work unit, sort of like the example I gave before, like running a restaurant or running working on a project. So you could have a team that runs things. Maybe you have a management team of managers who are gonna oversee the creation of a new plane. But then you may have sub teams that are going to be groups of people who are going to work on specific parts on making the plane, and things of that nature. I mean, all these. Some teams can do all three. They can recommend, they can run things, and they can do things. Some teams may only do two of these actions or just one. So teams can have multiple roles. Um, Now, a formal team is, if it's formal, then it's, there's actually a documentation. Officially, the team exists. Your name is listed as a team participant within the organization. So it's a very formal uh, organizational team. And like any team, it could be just for one temporary purpose, or it could be an ongoing. Maybe you're on the team to evaluate the safety conditions at work, and maybe the appointment's only for 6 months. I mean, these are just examples. Uh, Informal groups. So teams can be more informal, where a couple coworkers get together, or you're working on a project by yourself, and you find that um, you may need additional help. Um, but there's no official assignment or endorsement. It's just that people have gotten together and they're working on something. You may have this in your own life, where you have a group of friends that may work on a project like a yard sale together, or a project to paint your house, or just groups of interested people that want to go on a hike, or want to go take photographs, things like that. Okay, so now we live in this world where social networking is a big word. So you can have in social networking informal groups where people have a relationship to each other. So you can have a group of people um, that, if you think about not Facebook, but in Google, you can have what they call circles. So you can create a circle, informal circle of just your family, a circle of just your friends, a circle of just a group of interested people who like to be in a book club. So social networking allows you to connect with many more people over vast distances, and create these informal groups. Okay. Now, if we look at a cross-functional team or task force, that's when we're going to pull somebody from different members from different departments in the company. So maybe you have a cross-functional task force to create a new product. So you're going to have someone from sales, marketing, accounting, engineering, production, all going to meet together to talk about the functionality and the strategy of creating this new product. And the finance people can tell you whether we have the money to get into this business, and the engineering people can tell you whether or not it's possible to design this project, and the production department can tell you whether or not they have the capacity to make it. And the marketing people can tell you how, if or there's demand for the product, and how they could advertise it. So you really need the skills of, and these are very common within companies, create these cross-functional teams to try to take on projects that affect every department or multiple departments in one company. There's also, within the organization, you may have a specific problem-solving team. And there could be a problem that gets developed at, okay, the supplier that we buy from China, it can no longer supply us with these raw materials. So the problem-solving team could be to get together to say, okay, is there any substitute materials we can use? What are pricings at some competitors? And make a temporary team to solve that specific problem. Employee involvement team, this would be something maybe a little bit tied more to human resources, where they want to get together and look at or talk about particular workplace issues such as safety, such as certain policies. I remember there was a team of people that got together in a company to talk about and think about what to do about the smokers of the company, or what our smoking policy would be in the company. Should we let them smoke 10 feet outside the door, make it a completely smoke-free company, give them an area, 100 feet away from any entrances where they could smoke and there'd be no, wouldn't bother anybody. So you get the idea. These employee involvement teams, maybe they're a better example might be, we're talking about employee involvement, uh, organizing the company picnic. And it could be a team that meets once a year, a few times, once a month before the picnic they meet to start organizing and deciding what to do. You get the general picture. Um, Okay, so if we go functional silo problem, now this is a problem that can occur in teams where members just say focus on the matters that matter most to them and minimize dealings with other functions. So if you have a cross-functional task force and someone has this silo problem, they basically just want to kind of selfish focus on the needs of their department and what they want, and they don't think of the bigger picture. So this can sometimes be a problem that organizations have to get people to think of the company as one company, not you individually in your department. That could be a problem in. um, Now also, when we talk about employee involvement team, let's just talk about this some more. So there are a lot of important workplace issues and policies that sometimes the management doesn't just want to come out and make the policy because it's easy for the management to be criticized. So if it's a policy, maybe picking different health plans or picking different benefit policies, they may want to have a team of people to collectively try and get the pulse of the company and help make these decisions. Um, so if they have a quality circle, it's going to be a smaller subset that's going to meet a little bit more regularly to discuss the developments um, related to the quality and the productivity. So you could have sort of a team within a team. Um, all right, so the self-managed teams. These are teams where it's sort of like you in a classroom environment. Okay, you three are a team. Now go off and deal with your team that you need. So you make the decisions and you manage yourselves and you figure out how you're going to work together, when you're going to meet, what your schedule is going to be, and there's no manager there to say, okay, you're meeting here. I want you to produce this by then, and it's up to the team to hand out the duties, and things that are traditionally performed by a manager are replaced by team decision. And that's how in today's world, managers like this idea because it's less for managers to do. So just create a team. Here's what you're tasked with. Here's the deadline. Go and get it done. And managers really hate it, as well as I can tell instructors or professors hate it when you come up to them and say, the team's not working. I can't get along with Susie. She's being a complete witch with a W, not the other word. And Bradley is being a real jerk, and I just can't work with them. And you need to do something. Well, your instructor hates that, and your manager hates that. They expect you to be professional adults and figure out a solution. But we've all been there in the team circumstance where we're working in a team and we're like, okay, this person is of no help. I'm really carrying them and I'm sick of it, and I don't know what to do. And it's a tough one. And a lot of times you're going to be, if that happens to you in school, be thankful because now you could understand it, deal with it, learn strategies to counteract it, because when you get to the workplace and it happens, you'll know what to do. And it's very difficult. And some teams just decide, okay, this person is the weakest link. We're stuck with them, so let's minimize the damage they can cause, and we'll just do most of the work. And some teams, I had a team once in the class where there was a 5-person team, 2 people doing all the work, the other 3 people disappeared, refused to do anything. So these 2 students purposely sabotaged and didn't hand in the project, saying that, listen, no one else helped us. We want to let you know that we have it done, but we're not going to hand it in because we want the other three people to get Fs because they helped us not at all, and they're just using us. And we rather fail this project and punish them rather than us handing in the work we did and everybody getting an A. That's how much upset we are of these other students. So that that's an extreme case, and I've seen it happen at least once. So problems can arise in that. Okay, so let's look at organizational and management implications of managing teams. Okay, so we have this nifty little chart here, and if we look at it, on one side we have, of course, the top manager, the middle manager, and the supervisors, and this is basically what we call a work unit, and that's sort of work being done by the supervisor managing a unit of people. On the team oriented, you can have the top managers and the middle manager, and then you have a team that's self-managed. So instead of having to have a supervisor managing a group of people and coordinate and organize them and tell each one individually what to do and try and get a result from them, you can reorganize them into a self-managed team, which basically eliminates that position of supervisor. And then middle manager has to just outlay for them what he expects them to get done and when it should be done, and then the team is up to themselves. And they found that in studies that people who are given the chance to work as a team and are much more effective and much more motivated and productive in team atmosphere than when it's supervisor versus employee. And a lot of times there's a lot of animosity, and they found that teams overall, over a number of instances, will be more effective because with the supervisor, you have a bad supervisor, you're going to have bad results. So a lot of this work unit is all dependent on the supervisor. Whereas in a team, other team members can pick up the slack. So if someone's really not that good, other people could step in. And so there is a better dynamic for the company when they have these self-directed work teams. Because they're going to be empowered to make the decisions, and they're going to feel a responsibility because everybody's sort of like have a management role in this team or supervisory role in this team, and working together, can often produce a more satisfying work life for these people and also produce greater results. Okay, so let's talk about multi-skilling. We've all heard about multitasking. Now, because team members have a lot of discretion in determining workplace and distribution of different tasks, multi-skilling is important. That means that team members are expected to perform many different jobs, even all of the team's jobs if needed. So pay is usually skill-based, and the more skills someone has, or the more skills someone masters, the higher the rate of pay. So what's great about this is that you have multiple team members that can fill in if one team member is sick or if one team member is pulled away, has to travel. So you have, and they have a good understanding of all aspects of what needs to be done. So it could be a very useful team, a very flexible and dynamic team if there's a certain amount of overlapping of skills. And there could be much more discussion and understanding of what needs to be done when more people experience in the different skills that are needed within the team. Okay, so let's talk about some of the benefits, advantages of these self-made teams. We definitely see in self-managed teams that the productivity and quality is improved. There are definitely these teams are higher performing than when I explain the supervisor to individual dynamic. Okay. Now these teams, especially if they're multi-skilled, they have much more flexibility and they respond faster to technological changes. So say, for example, someone says, okay, you're now not going to be working with computers anymore. We're going to give you iPads to work with. And a team of five, two members have an iPad, know how to work it, and utilize the different apps. Maybe there's a particular app specifically for what they need to do. Three people have no idea. And then part of the team that knows what has some familiarity can help the other part learn and keep them up to speed. So that's how technology can change a lot faster because they're going to work together. The people who are familiar or catch on to the technology can help the people who are not so familiar. Now, and believe it or not, these self-managed teams also reduce a lot of absenteeism and turnover. If people are part of an effective team and they're doing well, they're going to want to come to work, and they're not going to want to let their coworkers down, and they're not going to want to miss out on what's happening. So they found that absenteeism and turnover are greatly reduced when people have more of a self-managed team environment. And the improved work attitudes that people have. Their work life is generally deemed to be better when they work, when they're sort of almost kind of like their own boss in a way. They have much higher satisfaction. They're not looking over their shoulders to this, worried about the supervisor, and they feel, that they're more of an equal. So it definitely produces people have, when surveyed, have more higher quality of a work life. Okay, there are some disadvantages of self-managed teams. It's not all perfect. Okay, some people are hard to adjust to that responsibility. If it's been supervisor to employee their whole life and suddenly they're thrown into a self-managed team, they may not be able to adjust to those responsibilities or may not want to have those additional responsibilities. Another problem can become the managers themselves. If the managers are used to dealing with the supervisors, they may not be so effective dealing with teams. So if they lose those supervisors that used to dealing with, they may have a difficulty crossing over and trying to understand how to work in a team environment. Because it definitely can make managers' jobs a little bit harder, where they used to just talk to one supervisor. And a lot of companies, the way it works is like, if you're the employee, you can talk to your supervisor, but don't dare talk to the manager of the supervisor, because you're going over your supervisor's head and it's not appreciated. And a lot of companies keep this hierarchy structure where you better not dare talk to someone above your boss, because then they get threatened and feel upset about it. So that's an issue. And so if managers have a team to deal with, now they have many more people coming to them on the individual team, and they may not be able to effectively manage their time and organize an effective communication between the team and the manager, such as a weekly update meeting. And so as managers go on and they work with more teams, they learn how to do this, and it eventually becomes effective. Okay, so let's talk about virtual teams. I talked about this a little bit in the beginning of the lecture, and a virtual team is obviously, we're pretty well versed in computers and laptops and iPads and things of that nature. And we have a lot of different tools, such as the SB Connect I use for my office hours, or Skype, or even, Gmail has built-in chat and now video. So members may have to be asked to work in a virtual team where they're not meeting in person, they're interacting in a different way, either through, it could be a video chat, it could be just a normal chat, it could even be through email. So you're just not meeting face to face, but you're using some other computerized methodology to meet and work as a team. And this could be for companies that are rather large and have multiple geographic locations and barriers where it gets too expensive to fly people in or travel or commute or different time schedules. So we're switching over to more and more virtual teams, which can make teamwork a lot harder. Now, we definitely know the benefits of working in electronic space is going to free us from the constraints of any geographical distances or barriers. Members of virtual teams can do the same thing as members of the face-to-face groups, share information, make decisions, complete tasks. Some steps to successful teams are summarized, can be more easily summarized in an online environment, such as, if these meetings can be recorded, and members who may have missed the meeting can go back and review what happened. Transcripts of the chat messages between teams can be recorded. So there's a lot more accountability for what goes on, and people can access these lists or recordings and things of that nature, and inside these virtual teams. Now let's talk about some advantages of the virtual team. Some of them I may have mentioned already. Now, one is it just breaks down geographical borders. Another one is it can reduce costs, especially if you have to pay people to travel around the country, or if the ability to schedule a meeting face to face is limited. You can only meet maybe once or twice a month. If with the online environment, it may open up a lot more opportunities to meet more regularly. Now, and I guess if you're meeting online or in a virtual team, there's less stress because you're not going to be physically in the room with somebody. There's less chance of a direct confrontation. There's less chance of worrying about people if they're judging you, how you look, how you dress. So some of the stress of actually meeting these people at work are relieved when you're meeting or working with someone online. Just like I think you can agree that a lot of people feel more comfortable chatting online than having conversations face to face. Even in today's world, there are many people that I know, and maybe some people you know as well, that prefer to even instead of making phone calls to people, want even to be even more removed and just send text messages to each other. So, rather than calling somebody and saying, hey, what are you doing? Do you want to go out to dinner? Now we'll just send a text message out. Dinner? Question mark, smiley face. All right. So the disadvantages of virtual team are obvious. It's sometimes difficult to get the level of relationship that you can have when you're working with someone in person. And it can limit all these nonverbal cues that you have when you're in the same room with somebody. Even the virtual face-to-face chats where you can see each other, it still lacks that face-to-face in the same room type of communication. That's the highest level of communication between two people are when they are in the presence of each other. So that can sometimes, you miss that with the virtual team. And also, I feel with the virtual teams that the complexity of the technology can get in the way of the team effectiveness. And we've seen this. If you're using technologies, and this was a problem with some of the online classes that we tried to do in the past, where we relied too exclusively on Stony Brook Connect or Adobe Connect or Skype. The technology just, we couldn't hear, the microphone doesn't work for half the students, or some people can't get video, or some people don't have a video or a microphone, or they can't, their computer won't run the software, or they don't have the most latest updated version, or they didn't update their JavaScript, or, it's just so many technical details that can get in the way that can be really difficult for a online team to communicate and meet effectively based on technology. But once those technology issues are worked out and people are properly trained on what they need to work with, then they become much more effective. But in the beginning, it can be very ineffective. Okay, so what makes an effective team? Obviously, a team that's achieving the task they're set upon to complete makes a team effective. So it's really about the results. But it's not always just the results of what the team is doing. Sometimes a team can fail, but still win. So if a team went about something and it didn't work out, and they're unable to, say, create a new product, there still may be some benefits of that team meeting. Now these people know each other. It makes them more effective to communicate with each other in future projects. They might be more satisfied that they were part of a team, and even though it's better to fail as a team than to fail as an individual. Some people feel like it takes a lot of the stress off. Also, so the satisfaction, member satisfaction, just if the team is effective and they actually do solve the problems, there's a certain amount of satisfaction that could come from being part of a successful and winning team. And then the visibility. just oh, you were on that team, or this is so and so, they're on the new products team, and things of that nature. There's If we want to look at, there's more about effectiveness than just solving the problem. Um, okay, so let's look at different measures of effectiveness. Of course, we want the team to solve the problem, but sometimes some problems are unsolvable. Sometimes, if the team can just come away to better understanding the problem, that can be effective as well, especially for tackling it again in the future. Such as they've had teams that were trying to place probes um, on Mars, and any failures they had along the way of previous teams helped future teams be more successful. Just by the learning and the experience and the transfer of knowledge. Okay, so let's look at these three items that I want to talk about. Task performance. So a task is going to be some individual um, item that needs to get done. So an effective team, um, I guess when you're talking about task performance, an effective team achieves its performance goals in the standard sense of quantity, quality, and timeliness of their results. A team unit that's going to manufacture, say a manufacturing team, they might meet daily to discuss their production targets. A temporary team may be enforced to create a new policy. Um, might be their specific task. So the task performance is, were they able to increase the output, the quantity? Were they able to increase the quality of the product? And were they able to get the results done in time? So I guess that's the three elements of, if a team is effective in their task performance, they did one or all three of these in combination. Okay. Member satisfaction. Let's talk a little bit more about that. So an effective team, when we're talking about member satisfaction, is one whose members believe that their participation and experiences have been positive and overall has been a benefit to them. And it's met some personal needs of them, either getting to be more established in the company, knowing more people in the company, getting additional tasks on their resume. So the accomplishments along the completion, the satisfactory completion of certain tasks, accomplishments, and interpersonal relationships is what can keep people satisfied, the members of a team. Now, the viability of a team. So we're talking about the viability of a team. The members of an effective team are, if they're sufficiently satisfied and continue working well together on an ongoing basis, when one task is finished, they look forward to working again in the future. Such a team has an all-important long-term performance potential. So the viability of the team may, if they're successful in the first task they perform, this might be a viable team to continue in the future. So, all right. I'm just going back. Before, I think I was talking about team visibility, and that's also another, I guess, benefit of member satisfaction is if you're placed in the winning team, and it can, a team that can achieve a much more than you can achieve individually, it can give you a certain amount of enhanced visibility at work as well. I just want to mention that again because I talked about that before. All right, so let's move on to synergy as one of the big team benefits. Synergy in the finance world, when we talk about mergers and acquisitions and two companies being synergetic, we talk about 1 + 1 = 5. Saying that if you take a company like let's look at Marvel Comics and Disney. Marvel Comics has all the characters and all the stories that people love and great characters, and Disney doesn't have, they're running out of stories, but they have great directors and production and connections to actors. So both companies want to do more. So you bring these two companies together as Disney buying Marvel. Suddenly, Marvel's able to leverage and put more of its characters into movies more effectively using the resources at Disney, and Disney's suddenly able to release more films that can have higher box office, such like this summer's Avengers. So together, the two companies can create a lot more business and a lot more productivity and content and output than the two companies separately. So that would be like sort of an example of how the sum, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So obviously, you can understand in a teamwork effort, maybe one person is not capable of building a house in 3 months, but a team of people are capable of building a house in 3 months. Okay, so that's a very important, probably the most important thing about teams. So let's talk a little bit more about why teams are good for organizations. And this may duplicate some stuff we've talked about. One great thing about teams is a transfer of knowledge and skills between the members of the team. So it makes all the employees potentially more effective because you're going to increase their knowledge, their awareness, their ability to do things. So a team can really create a learning environment where the pool of experiences in the company can be shared and can be brought together to more effectively solve a problem or a particularly challenging problem that really would be outside the scope of any one individual. Um, Teams also give people the opportunity to get to know their coworkers, and the social interaction can provide people a real sense of um, serenity at work, more acceptance. It could give them, I look at it like if you're in a work environment and the more people you know, if you have a problem and you're really comfortable with a number of people at work, you can call some up and say, hey, I have an issue with this. You know anything about it, or can you help me? And you can leverage a lot of people's different skills and sort of create what I call a temporary team. If you yourself has an individual problem and someone comes to you and say, this product, we lost this product, we don't know what happened to it. You sort of call on your contacts of people that you've worked with in previous teams and say, and leverage their skills to help solve the problem that you couldn't do alone. And this is a way, the more people, this has always been why I've been successful in a lot of my jobs, is that I had a real rapport and connection to many of the people I worked with. And I was able to get a high level of productivity by knowing who to route the problem to the quickest to get a solution, rather than trying to relearn everything myself and, spinning my wheels all day long. And along with that comes an emotional support where other people can really commiserate and talk and help each other through any particular problems they have at work or a different coworker, and it really provides more of an emotional support at work by feeling like you have these friends or other people you know well inside the company. Um, and this personal involvement you have when you're involved with a team, the team's successful, and can actually lead to a better work image or work self-esteem. So these are all benefits that can be derived from working together with people rather than working by yourself. Okay, so let's look at some particular problems, and I'll relate a lot of these to school-related issues as well as you're working in teams. So who hasn't been on a team at some point in your life where you have a freeloader, or what they call here a social loafer? So you have a team of five, and you're all working hard, and you're all doing your fair share, but you have one person who doesn't, misses the meetings, doesn't seem interested, doesn't have much to contribute, just sits there and looks at you, really, is taking advantage of the team to do all the work while them minimizing their efforts or their work. And this is just somebody who does this in the team is a real lowlife, and it's someone who is not going to do well in work. You don't have to worry about trying to punish this person or try to make things right or fair. The work life that they have after school will more than take care of that. If they can't get along working in teams in the school environment, they're certainly not going to do well in the work environment, because all work environments today professionally are going to require teamwork. Okay. Personal conflicts. There are people that sometimes you just can't get along with. People are just messed up in the head. They're not realistic. They're living in some alternate reality. It's very hard to deal with them when, in a team environment. And there may be personal conflicts, I mean, it's difficult to deal with people. That's why if you can be successful working with people and dealing with people in teams, you can be a very strong contributor to that work environment because it's very hard to get along with everybody, and there's always going to be bound to be some personal conflicts. Um, if there is some, if things aren't clear cut, um, you know, if you're not really sure what the team is asked to do or what their goals are, that's going to be a big challenge to the team. And it's really the first, I think the first thing any team should do is really, what do you want us to, what are you expecting, what resources do we have? And if that isn't made clear, the team is not going to be effective. As well as poorly defined agendas, or in that similar vein. Some people could have, it also could be personal agendas can get in the way too. Some people may be part of a team, but hoping it's going to fail because it might benefit their department or something they're looking for, or if it may embarrass the manager that they want to be promoted into their position. You don't know. People have personal agendas that can affect the team as well. Lack of motivation. Some people are just lazy or unmotivated, burnt out, or uninterested. You get a team member like this or two who could really bring down the team and the effectiveness of the team. And then if people feel like the team is a waste of time, that it lacks purpose or direction, the meetings are a waste, they're not going anywhere, and you're just meeting and talking in circles, or the team has been assembled to solve a problem that no one really wants to be solved. These can really get in the way of the effectiveness of the team. You can see this in Congress a lot, where they have subcommittees that are going to come in like, okay, we're going to balance the budget, and here's our plan, and everybody knows that this team is just trying to put a plan out there, but no one is never going to be past Congress in any way, so they kind of waste. There's no real purpose to the team. All right, so let's focus on social loafing a little more, elaborate on it. Some people are going to use the team's excuse to work less because since it's not their own personal grade and not their own personal responsibility, they're going to feel less stressed and may result in less effort put in by them, especially if they have a weak work effort. If people feel like they're not going to be singled out as much within a team than as an individual, they may not work as hard. And we've all have witnessed this, and it's really hard. So how can we prevent the social loafing? Well, that actually gets reduced in the size of the team. You have a 10-person team, you're going to have more loafers in the team. If you have a 2-person team, it's going to happen a lot less. Also, as far as the roles of a team go, if you make the free riders more visible, if you have a system where there are peer review of team members and managers can get some feedback on who's the weak link, they can follow up and try to correct this problem. So if you have these peer reviews and the manager sees that 4 out of 5 people in the team all think that one person isn't carrying their weight, then the manager has some course of action to really talk to this person and try to change it around. I've seen some professors on some classes do something similar like this, and then they'll take individual people off a team and create a loser team. So we have 5 teams in class of 5 people, and there's one person, the weakest link on all these 5 teams who don't seem to perform or want to do anything. We'll just take them out of those teams and just create one team of these 5 individuals, so they'll have to deal with each other's weak performance. And definitely, as hard as it is for students to work in teams in the class, it's equally hard for faculty to work with the teams as well because of some of these types of issues. You can also increase accountability within the team's performance. So you're working as a team, but the individual accountability is more clear-cut and detailed. So that way they have the benefit of working in a team and also the benefit of a more individual performance or individual review of their team performance. And then the same thing can go for the rewards. You can reward people differently within a team based on their performance within the team. But then you get into the difficult area of how do you judge who's doing what, and how do you know, unless you're part of that team, a manager's going to have a hard time really understanding who's doing what and to prevent that social loafing. Um, okay, so we have a couple theories here, as we always do. Um, Social facilitation theory, and this basically says a tendency for one's behavior to be influenced by the pressures of others in a group or social setting, sort of like peer pressure. So a good result of this is that extra effort, individuals tend to put into the assignment. Okay, and I mean this could produce negative results too. If someone doesn't have, you can have as much peer pressure within a group, but if the person is unfamiliar with it, uh, or doesn't have the necessary tasks or skills rather to perform, this can result in a negative situation. Um, and basically, this social facilitation, um, the tendency of one's behavior to be influenced by the presence of the group or the social setting they're within. Um, uh, so hopefully this works in a positive way where this pressure influence produces better results by an individual within the team, knowing that he has the team is putting this pressure on him to really succeed. Now, the theory suggests working in the presence of others creates an emotional, commitment of some sort that's going to stimulate more effective behavior. It's going to motivate and get people psyched up that to do a better job. Like I was saying, there's positive and negative aspects to uh, this theory. Um, so if someone is not really able to do the work, it doesn't matter how much pressure you put on them; they're just not going to perform. Um, But if for example, if you do have a team member who is enthusiastic and responds well and is asked to do something, such as create an Excel spreadsheet, they may do it with much more vigor and much more creativity and much more effort than if they were just doing it for themselves. I mean, it's the best way I can kind of say. Okay, so let's move into a different thing: the 5 stages of team development, and let's talk about this for a minute. Now, the first stage is the forming stage. Uh, in the forming stage of a team development, a primary concern is the initial entry of members into a group. During this stage, individuals ask a number of questions as they begin to identify with other group members and with the team itself. Their concerns, can conclude a lot of things, including, what can I offer, what can they do for me, things of that nature. Think of this as sort of like you're in a classroom and you have different teachers can do different things to put you into groups. They could just say, okay, everybody organize yourself into groups, and then you pick your friends, you talk with people, you sort of say, hey, do you want to be in my group? Or the teacher can just basically say, I'm going to, I put you in groups alphabetically or randomly, but you still have this forming stage where you have to exchange phone numbers and emails and get to know each other and talk about what each of you can do, and sort of, coordinate. The next stage is what's called the storming stage. Now, this is a period where things might get a little tense for group members, and during the stage, hostility and infighting may occur as people jockey for different control or leadership positions within the group. So, you could have people who sort of form small cliques within the group, and they kind of the dynamic of the group is being defined. Who's going to be aggressive? Who's going to sit back? Uh, so it's sort of the group really finding their working dynamic on how things are going to lay out, and it can sort of almost be a ritual in some circumstances. And you're just trying to get to understand one another and how this group of people can work together to accomplish their goals. Then the group's going to move into the next stage, the normating stage. And in the normating stage of team development, it's a point at which members really start to come together as a coordinated unit. The turmoil of the storming stage has been settled, the storm has passed, gives way to a more balanced aspect of the team. So there's a new sense of harmony with team members where people have settled into their roles and they've accepted, who's going to be doing what, and they're going to strive to take this more balanced environment forward. And hopefully holding the team together and become more successful in the tasks that they're going to do in the future. Okay. Then that leads into the performing stage. And this is basically a total integration that marks the emergence of a mature, organized, well-oiled machine, well-functioning team of members who are now able to deal with complex tasks and problems and handle internal disagreements their own way and sort of keep everyone in the team happy and achieve results. So the structure is very stable and the members are motivated and they're generally well satisfied. The team is just kind of worked out their kinks and now is just in the middle of performing. Okay, and then the last stage, of course, is they're going to adjourn. So the adjourning stage is when the team is going to be winding down. So it might have been a temporary team, some kind of task force or committee, and the members are just going to convene quickly and just have and talk about what's going to be done next. We need to form a new team. We're going to disband or form two teams, or just whatever the future responsibilities of the team are ongoing. Maybe they're going to say, okay, we're going to go in. Maybe it's a team of people who are going to pick the 401k, different mutual funds, and they're going to say, okay, we picked our initial 12 mutual funds, but let's meet every 6 months to review their performance and decide if we're going to have to pick a different fund, as an example. All right. Okay, so these slides actually, I've talked about this all with the graphic. So in these slides, just reinforcing the basic points of what I was saying on the different stages. Okay, actually, here's sort of a substate of the, if we're looking at two groups, if we're talking about this chart can help you in the performing stage if you want to look at, is the group immature or mature? So this chart's basically looking at if you scale high on it, you're more mature. If your feedback mechanisms are working and are excellent, it's more mature group has got this worked out and settled. So things that characteristic of a working, functioning, mature team is excellent feedback mechanisms, very functional decision-making methods, high group loyalty and cohesion, flexible operating procedures, excellent use of member resources and skills, clear and frequent communications, acceptance of the goals of the team, everybody's working towards the same goals, the authority or decision-making abilities of the team are interdependent and not. No one person is acting like a manager for the team. They're all working together. There's a high participation in that leadership, and there's a high amount of acceptance of minority views. So people who have a minority view or comment aren't completely crushed or smashed down or told, shut up, we don't want to hear that. There's a real level of acceptance within the group. Okay. Of course, then we talk the ending stage. We just finished that. Okay, so moving into this what they call, I guess, TE, which is team effectiveness. So if you wanted to have a mathematical formula, the quality of inputs plus process gain minus process losses would give you how effective a team is. And I'm not going to say exactly, this is just more of a concept formula. I wouldn't say you would just normally put numbers in here, but see if we have a graphic of this. If we're talking about quality of inputs, resources, technology, structure, rewards, information, the nature of the task, the clarity, the complexity, the team size, the team composition, and that all is going to go into the team process that we talked about, how they're going to interact and work together in their roles and how they're going to deal with conflict. And then now, so the process gains they make minus their process losses is basically going to be the team effectiveness. So what is, did they accomplish their tasks? Are the members satisfied? Is the team viable to move forward? And then that, so if they get their next task, the feedback from the effectiveness goes back into the team inputs and it sort of starts over again. Um, okay, so let's team effectiveness as affected by the nature of the task. So different tasks place different demands on teams. Some tasks are easier, some are harder, some are, they're all varying tasks that can be assigned to a team. Um, so the more well understood the task is, or well defined, or the expectations of the team are defined, the more effective the team can become. Um, and of course, as the tasks become more complex and more involved, the more difficult it will be for the team to be successful. Um, Now, if, of course, a team succeeding in a relatively easy task is not going to really change anyone's world, but a team being successful at a very difficult task, can lead to a lot of satisfaction for the team and a lot of prestige for the team, in that nature. Um, okay, so the nature of the task affects the outcome. Harder the task, the technical demands, the difficulty of the task is going to be the experience of the team members doing similar tasks uh, is going to be a degree, a level of difficulty involved. Uh, you're going to have to look at the information requirements of the technical details of the task. Now, the social demands of the task would have to say how well, if we're talking about, the nature of the task can put people in a way that the interpersonal issues can be developed between their relationships, their ego. It could be controversies based on difficult subjects, religion and government mixed together, or political, Democrat, Republican issues that they're talking about. Whether the ends justify the means. Things like this can be a very demanding aspect of a team. So teams have to deal with not only the technical work-related difficult issues, but also there could be a social functionality of the team that can also affect the outcomes, whether a team's successful or not. And then definitely the size of the team. If the team is too small, it may not be effective, or they don't have enough skills involved to get the job done. If the team is too large, it may just not be cohesive enough to get the job done. It could be too many, that saying, too many cooks spoil the soup. Just think of that. And then also the mix of the team. If you need the right people with the right abilities and skills and personalities to perform, that's why a very high functioning, very successful team the first time out is sort of like lightning in a bottle. It don't always capture that. And sometimes teams have to work at it or remove members and add other members to get to the composition that's going to be very successful. Okay, so now, of course, the mix of people are going to use in the team that that we're talking about is very important, and their experiences, what they bring to the team, their point of view. This is all going to be very difficult to get right. It's a difficult aspect, and of course, we have a theory for that. So let's talk about this theory. So I call this the FIRO-B theory, and basically which stands for the fundamental interpersonal orientation. Identifies differences in how people relate to one another in groups based on the need to express and receive feelings of inclusion, control, affection. This was developed by William Schultz. The theory suggests that teams whose members have compatible needs are likely to be more effective than teams whose members are more incompatible. Symptoms of incompatibility include withdrawal, members who withdraw themselves, open hostilities, struggle in fighting over control, domination by a few members. Schultz states that management implications of the FIRO-B theory this way. If, and I'm quoting Schultz directly here, if at the outset we can choose a group of people who can work together harmoniously, we shall go forth towards avoiding situations where a group's efforts are wasted on interpersonal conflicts, end quote. So basically, interpersonal reactions is going to be a big can be a big stumbling block in how effective a team becomes. Now, some other things to think about is status. A person's rank in the company, their prestige, social standing. We got to. This is definitely one aspect that can affect a team. So we can extend this to social congruence, and this occurs when a person's position within a team is equivalent to in status to positions the individual holds outside of the team. So any status incongruence where it doesn't match may create problems. So if you have a high-powered culture in your company and a highly defined chain of command, so if the chair of the committee, what if the chair of the committee is the lowest ranking member of the team and he has to sort of organize and give direction to some more higher ranking individuals. So in a lot of ways, the chair of most teams is expected to be the highest ranking member of the group to avoid these inconsistencies. When this is the case, the group's status, the alignment of the status or the congruence of the status makes members more comfortable. Okay, so he's the vice president, he's leading and running the team. I feel more comfortable than if I was running the team and had to tell the vice president what to do. So what would happen if a senior member is not appointed to the head of the committee? Perhaps, this could cause, as you can see, it can cause some problems within the groups, some insecurities. People might feel uncomfortable. They might have difficulty working together in this situation. Think about if you're an established person at your company and you've been there 10 years and suddenly a college student is just hired and he's had to put together a team and now he's only 2 months on the job and he's telling you what to do and how to work within the team. It could lead to, basically a lot of this is about ego. And once people have a certain status within the company, that status has to be maintained at some level within the team. Otherwise, personal resentments can develop. So it's a real issue. Okay, let's talk about diversity on the team and how that affects team performance. So teams are always going to be made up of different people. No two people are identical. So you're going to have diversity in the team in many different levels of experience, demographics, personalities, gender. This is all going to be different. But you can have a homogeneous team where members share many of the same characteristics, or you can have a heterogeneous team where the team members are very different and dissimilar from each other. Now you could see how that's a strength and a weakness. If you have too many similar people together in a team, say you had a team that was going to decide what TV shows stay on the network and what TV shows get removed from the network schedule next year, and you had a team of all men age 50 to 60, too homogeneous. They all say, okay, we need more sports. We definitely need more golf. If you had a more heterogeneous group, then you have a lot more influences about, what should make up your network schedule. If a TV network. Okay, so let's talk about a dilemma. Diversity, conscious. I need a drink of water. Hold on a second. Sorry about that, folks. Just needed a drink of water. I'm back. Diversity consensus dilemma. And this is the tendency for diversity to make it harder for teams to make up their minds and work together. So even though diversity is good, um, and diversity can expand the knowledge and understanding and perspectives of people and problem solving, that's the good side of it. The bad side of it is that it sometimes can make it difficult for people to come to a consensus and come to a group decision, and these conflicts can emerge more readily in these heterogeneous groups than come to a conclusion. Think of like 12 Angry Men in the classic movie where they're trying to solve that, figure out a guilty or innocent plea. Now, collective intelligence, this is where, 10 minds are better than one. So it's the ability of a group of people to perform at a much higher level across a huge range of tasks and problems than any one person could do. And, now, it's not about the level of intelligence of each individual member, but if you add these individual members together, the collective intelligence is going to be much stronger, much higher than any one individual. So I mean, it's pretty much common sense. The If we look at this graph here, member diversity, stages of team development, and team performance, we could see that. As a team is, forming, storming, norming, performing, the team performance is rising. Now, if the gains of the team are greater than, of course, the losses, the team's going to continue to become, the performance will continue to become much stronger. But if a team becomes ineffective after these stages and during the performance stage, they become, less effective, and it can get to a point where the team is just not going to solve the problem. They're going to need to be disbanded and move on. So just sort of like a little slide on that development. Okay. Now, group or team dynamics, when we talk about that, these are forces within the team that occur that affect the way members understand and react and relate to each other. This aspect of team performance is very important, and we're going to focus much more on this in the next chapter when we move into chapter 8. Okay, so that's the end of this lecture. I look forward to talking to you guys again in chapter 8, and I will see you soon. Take care.